What happens when two seasoned business leaders get together? They talk shop, of course. Sit back and listen in as Scott DeLong and Vince Moiso share from their experience around current issues facing executives, entrepreneurs, and their leadership teams. The CEO Podcast starts now.
Hey everybody, welcome. It's season 4 of the CEO Podcast. It's pretty amazing that we've gotten this far.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly been fun, right? A lot of work to do this, but mostly been fun. So folks, season 4, we're going to do things just a little bit different. You'll see probably quite a few more guests as well.
Yeah. Good guests. Good content. We're excited.
We've got some really good content.
The lineup is solid.
And we're still going to be talking in the in-between times when we don't have guests lined up, talking about the things that we like to talk about. And today the subject is the meetings, right?
Yeah, how to run a good meeting.
How to run a good meeting.
Best practices around meetings.
Yeah. So one of the things that I go into a lot of companies.
Well, before you get started, Scott, because we got to do a couple of things. And John, you can cut this out as much as you want.
Okay.
Everybody, you can check us out on Apple Podcasts. You can also see us on Spotify. So just so you know, moving forward, those are the 2 channels that we're really focused on. So we'd love for you to subscribe and please leave us some feedback. We'd love to get a 5-star rating from you, especially on Apple Podcasts if you get that opportunity. Same on Spotify. We love the fact and appreciate so much that we're into, what is essentially our 4th season.
Right.
We've had so many listeners and so much feedback. We do utilize that feedback. And so you can send us a topic. Email us at scottandvince@gmail. You can also check us out at leadtogoals.com or the ceopodcast.net. And you can find us there. Give us your feedback. If there's a topic that you guys want to hear, we want to know about it because we want to talk about it. We want to talk about what's hot and what's top of mind for you. And that's the best way to get in touch with us. So all that said, that's enough. I'm done. I'm done with the plug, Scott. We're talking about meetings today, right?
Yeah.
So best practices in meetings and ultimately what you want to accomplish in meetings, how to structure those meetings on a weekly basis, daily basis. So why don't you kick us off?
Oh, good. So I go into a lot of companies and when I'm in companies, I'm always interviewing or talking with, having dialogue with employees as well. It's not just the executives that I talk to, but I like to get down to the meat and potatoes, the people that are doing the work and get their impression. And the comment that I hear no matter what company I'm in, oh, we have way too many meetings around here. So we go through and take a look and see what meetings that are there and how they're doing and all that. And after about a week, spending some time, after about a week, I come back and go, you don't have too many meetings. Just that your meetings suck. People, and there's a lot of reasons for that, right?
Yeah.
And it's mostly because we're not paying enough attention. But I'm going to say one of the biggest culprits of having a poor meeting is having the wrong people in the meeting. There are so many companies that I see that invite everybody so that they don't hurt feelings. Good intention. The impact is terrible.
There's collaborative, but then there's too collaborative.
Yeah. Well, and not just too collaborative. You're inviting people that don't have anything to talk about in that meeting or unwilling to talk. They don't belong in the meeting, right? So let's take a step back. Let's talk about the purpose for a meeting.
Yeah.
Why do you hold a meeting? What's your reason for having a meeting?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of reasons for it, and it depends on the actual meeting. But I think generally speaking, it's a time to step back for all of us to get together and make sure we're aligned on whatever it is that we're meeting about. And so I think what gets missed in companies, to your point, and I believe you were leading in this direction, is you've got whatever your goals and objectives are for that month, that quarter, or that year for that matter. And not everybody's always aligned with those things, right? So, you've got departments and you've got people that are off siloed and maybe doing their own thing. And meetings are just a really great way to pull people back in and make sure that everybody's aligned and headed in the right direction.
Sure.
The same direction.
So there's one purpose for a meeting, and that is to to disseminate information and making sure people are in alignment.
Sure.
That's certainly a reason.
Yeah.
And I see the monthly all staff meetings are like that. Maybe the weekly departmental meetings can be like that, where it was kind of one way, kind of discussing and reporting, and then some questions coming back. Right. So that's one style of meeting. But I think for me, the purpose for a meeting is to get people's input, to get collaboration, and to find out who knows what about things. Right.
Sure.
I tell people all the time, if we're only going to go with what I say, we're only going to be as smart as I am, right? We're limiting the organization to, I believe strongly in the statement that we are smarter than me. Always. I'm going to hold a meeting so that I can get the input from other people and help reinforce the decisions that we need to make, right? As an organization. And we don't just want to go with one person who, let's say, is even the smartest person in the room. Sorry, we are still smarter than that person. No doubt. Right? We're going to take that person's intelligence plus yours plus the others, and if we get some collaboration. So I think a meeting should be interactive. Almost always. Sure, there's some reporting meetings, but those are few and far between. I actually like to tell people that, hey, if you're just going to report, send me an email. I can read a report. Yeah. If you want me to participate, invite me to a meeting. Yeah. So let's talk about who gets invited. Right? Let me jump in about what you said. Okay. I think there's a lot of deepness to what you said about the meeting. I'm going to say this. We talked about empowerment before on this podcast. Sure. And I think you've done, no one person, no one owner, entrepreneur, or C-level can do everything. And right, and if you're trying to do everything, stop tomorrow, because it's physically impossible. You don't have the bandwidth, and you've empowered others in your organization for a reason. And I think when you talk about having a meeting for the purpose of getting input from others, it's because you don't need to know everything. Yeah. And let's have a meeting. Not everybody can be running with their responsibility and then all come together to provide input for that alignment that I was talking about. Yeah, I actually think that when you talk about empowerment, the meeting structure that I talked about is empowering on its own. Right? It solidifies this is what we're trying to do. Well, I need to know what you're thinking. I'm acknowledging, right? Yeah. I'm acknowledging that, hey, that's your gig and we want to hear about it. More interested about it. So that's the first thing, is to get people that are going to be engaged. I remember an organization that I had several years ago that we had 3 different offices, and we're going to bring everybody into one office. All the key decision makers going to be in one office to talk about the strategic planning initiatives and all of that, right? And it wasn't a strategic planning meeting, but it was more departmental. And I remember one gal from a Florida office asked me if her manager, she's the director, asked me if her managers can come too. And I said, absolutely, as long as she's going to give me some input. Yeah. But if she's going to sit, because she was kind of a shy introvert, if she's going to sit and be introverted just to watch how the meeting's going to go, then no, I'm not going to fly somebody 3,000 miles to come to that. So if you want to come to a meeting that I'm holding, you need to participate. Yeah. You need to participate. There's nobody sitting back in the back just with their arms folded and just listening. Yeah. It's not okay. Well, Scott, so we figured out the why, right? We're talking about everything from alignment to empowerment to input. Mm-hmm. Great. Those are all great purposes for me, but I think we ought to just simplify this conversation in my mind, because what are the best practices? How many meetings should you have? Should they be daily? Should they be weekly? And you said the magic words too, that who should be in what meetings. So I think if we could provide high level content here in this discussion right now, it's telling our listeners what type of meetings they should be having and how frequently they should be having them. And I want to start with just one that I would argue is the most important meeting that I have on a weekly, sometimes daily basis. I learned it reading Vern Harnish's book, Scaling Up, but I do know, and Vern would give credit to Rockefeller Habits, right? And it's called The Huddle. And I'm always blown away at how many companies don't have a daily huddle. It's insane. Or how they're doing it. Or how they're doing the huddle. So talk about what a huddle is,
yeah.
and then we'll talk about the best practices.
Yeah, so a huddle is really simple. It's a way to start the day early in the morning. And if you've got, let's call it 4 or 5 people on the call, it shouldn't be more than about 15 minutes. Everybody's got a couple of minutes just to state what their priorities for the day are. And it is a quick way to get answers to very quick questions around, oh, okay, great. Scott, I didn't know that you weren't going to be in the office today. Thanks for letting me know. You're out and about. Do you need my help with anything?
So that's the second part of it,
right?
Not just stating what my priorities for the day, but what help I need from others that day as well, right? That's a huddle. It like you said, it's a minute, 2 minutes per person. You go around really quick, get a little bit of collaboration. In the old days when we used to go into offices, the huddle was a stand-up event. Why? Because when we sit down, we take longer.
Yeah.
When you're standing up, you can get it done in a minute and a half. These are my priorities of the day. I've got these 3 things. I need some help on this. Are you going to be available at noon?
Yep.
Right? Something really quick like that. And then someone else from that huddle might pop in and say, because that could be a one-on-one we could do, right? But someone else might say, well, wait a minute. I got some input on that too. Oh, great. Okay, we're meeting at 12 to work on this thing, right? So that's why you do it with it. It's done usually with a team.
Well, and I'll tell you, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like clockwork, I've got an exec huddle and then just back to back, right? I got an exec huddle, I got a management huddle, I got a sales huddle.
Perfect.
Yeah. And
because you're involved in those 3 areas.
Those are the 3 key areas that I'm directly involved in. And the reason I bring that up is just as a best practice, you don't want to put everybody on a call. I mean, putting everybody on a call is just going to be a big mess. I compartmentalize that, and it's very, very important for me to do that because each one has different components. And I often, and the exec huddle is the first one, because oftentimes we're talking about, bigger overarching things operationally, and I can share some of those things. Oh, hey, by the way, so-and-so let me know, they're going to be down, at the plant today, and this is what they're working on. I just want to let, you, the sales team, know.
And you do the exec huddle first?
Yeah.
Right? Is that your
always first?
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
I like that. And there may be some of those huddles, and I don't know in your organization where you're going to be in all 3 because you're kind of leading all 3 of those, but you might have somebody in the management huddle and the sales huddle. For instance, your national sales manager might be in both of those.
Yeah.
Different groups of people in the first one, and then his team or her team goes in the second huddle. So it's very possible that you can have the same person in 2 of your huddles. Well, you're going to all 3, right? And then other people are just in one or the other.
Well, we have our weekly, we still call it a huddle, but I have a weekly overarching sales huddle, that is more of we still call it a huddle. It's not technically exactly what we're talking about, but it's that platform, for help. That's the reason why we call it a huddle.
Okay.
So it's 30 minutes and the team, we focus always on where do we need help? Where do we need support? How can I support? How can marketing support? How can project management support?
On a weekly kind of task instead of the daily task that the daily huddle is going to be. So, so you're going to, and actually that daily task might turn into a weekly. So you could talk about it in both potentially, but kind of compartmentalizing and understanding who needs to be a part of what conversation.
You know what the huddle's done for me? It has cut down on the number of phone calls that I have throughout a day.
What about this? What about that?
And it has cut down on the number of meetings that I have.
Oh, that's great. So that's probably, so that's Vince's top meeting is the huddle. It's quick hitting, getting to it, got the right people there talking about the right topics. Here are my 3 priorities. Here's the help I'm going to need. And then anything else that might happen to be like hot.
You know what else I wanted to add about this? What I have found has been really critical about the huddle is how people can get a hold of you. So communication. Okay. And so what I'll say is, I'm on the road today, guys. I won't be checking emails until later today. Yeah. So just know that I'm not going to be responding quickly to emails. If something is urgent, please text or call.
Okay.
And so I can set that table instead of wondering, oh, why isn't Vince replying to my emails? And you don't have to sit and wait for that. You know that that's going to get hold of you.
All right. So I'm going to go on to not what my most important meeting is, and I have a definite most important. We talked about this a little bit fast. That's the one-on-one with people that are reporting to me.
I know
that's the most important. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I'm going to talk about the most fun meetings that I have. And I have these as needed. They're not scheduled on a weekly or daily kind of basis, but it is the brainstorming meeting, right? I love a great brainstorm. And there are right ways and wrong ways to do brainstorming. So when do you do the brainstorming? When you're thinking about an idea and a topic, but you don't have all the answers, right? And so you're going to brainstorm. There's a couple different ways of doing that. The one that everybody knows is we sit around in a room and everyone's just throwing out ideas, right? Just throwing out ideas. Call it popcorn ideas. And the way to do those is to allow anyone to say whatever they want quickly, not focus on that, but get to the next person talking about the next thing. We're not organizing. We're not figuring out if that was a good idea yet. We're not shooting it down. We're just popcorning ideas, and they get them out and you get them up on a whiteboard or a flip chart, or someone types it in, right? So you keep track of all these different ideas. That's one type. I'll tell you how to go about making that operational. But the second one, and this one I like even better, it's called the nominal group technique. And what this is I give you an assignment a few days in advance. I want to get your thoughts on these 3 questions. And you, independently, without sharing with anybody, you write down your thoughts on them.
Okay.
Right? And why that works is because people are prepared for it, and then they bring those ideas in, and it's a little more calm than the popcorn. Mm-hmm. However, what we don't do that happens in the popcorn often is that we lock down on an item. If you set a brilliant idea, and that's all we focus on is that brilliant idea. That's the problem with the popcorn. We don't do it right. We start focusing on that one thing. Whereas this nominal group technique, we go around the table and get everybody's ideas up on the board before we start tearing them down. Mm-hmm. It stops that judgment, right? The judgment that shuts an idea down, or it stops the anchoring on an idea that often happens in brainstorming sessions, mm-hmm. right? Okay. So now we've got all these ideas, whether it's nominal group technique or the popcorn style, and put them up on a whiteboard or wherever we're doing it. And we go around the room and talk about it, ask clarifying questions.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What do you mean by that? How do you see that working? And get some conceptualizing of each of those ideas. And then we figure out which ones work. So we diverge. We go wide with these crazy popcorns and nominal group techniques, whatever you might want to. Crazy, it's called diverge, and then we converge. Once they're up on the board, we just start talking about them and bringing it back down to the realistic or practical or crazy idea that we want to give a try. However we decided we want to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So get them up on the board first before we start talking about it, and then we start narrowing down and diverging. I just love, I leave a brainstorming meeting feeling high. Like I've been done.
So when and how frequent? I'm curious about that. I get how fun those meetings can be. We already know this about each other. We have different personalities in that set, and you're way more creative than I am in that regard. Yeah, and so I know you well enough to know that that's a super fun meeting. Yep. And, I have a business partner and others that I think, they love meetings like that. Those aren't my favorite.
Sure.
I actually struggle with that because I'm like, I have this structure and I got to move along.
Give me A/B choices and let me go work on them.
I know for sure. Yeah. For sure. So I really struggle with those.
Sure.
You know what though? I embrace that they're necessary, and I embrace that businesses have to have that. So my question for you is, again, going back to it, is really the frequency in which you're having those types of meetings and the context in which you're having.
So those are as needed. I'll give you the most recent example that we have. We've mentioned several times now, I'm launching a book in January.
Yeah.
And I got my team together, and there's only 5 of us. It's not a big team, but my team together, and we started talking about what does the launch look like and the marketing ideas for the launch. Yeah. Rather than hand it to the marketing guy and say, go market this, right? Yeah. So we're getting different creativity pushed in there, and people are playing off of ideas. It goes back to the EO concept of forum, right?
Yeah.
You tell me something and that sparks something in me about something different, and we get, and come up with some just brilliant ideas. I'm serious. We did that meeting a month ago, and I left that just feeling so great.
Super energized.
Right? And then a little bit depressed afterwards because I don't have an office to go to anymore to go do those kind of things. They're so much better in person, right? So how often is it as needed?
Okay.
You're definitely going to have those interdepartmentally or departmentally after maybe your quarterly review meeting, right?
Of course,
how are we doing? And
strategy. So like I started to think about that because I was thinking myself that probably you're doing those around strategy meetings, annual strategy.
There's a follow up to the strategy meeting.
Well, especially if you're doing product development. So like if you're in the business, I mean, so we've got a product development team, and I think they have quite a few of those meetings, especially on a quarterly basis. Let's get to your, you mentioned it, one-on-ones.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important topic in my opinion. And I think it's important that we share some of the best practices around that. So, what is the frequency of the one-on-ones and who should you be having one-on-ones with? Because it can't be everybody, but encouraging, depending on the size of your team, certainly encouraging the managers, leaders to be having one-on-ones with their direct reports.
So that's where you have a one-on-one.
But I think it's important to not leave because what I would love for the audience to hear, I already know it because you and I have talked about this so often, but you have such a good format for that. You have such a good concept around what a productive one-on-one session should look like.
All right. So I'm going to get to the first question first, and we'll talk about the style and the format that we use. So I think you ought to have a one-on-one with everybody that reports to you.
Yeah.
I also think that you should participate in some one-on-ones infrequently with whoever's reporting to you and the people that are reporting to them to show the people that are another layer down that you're involved and that you care. That's the only reason. You are not there to talk in that. You are there to be present. Right? So here's the one-on-one with the direct reports. How often? As often as they need them. There are people that I've had one-on-one that reported to me that are perfectly fine with a monthly one-on-one. There are others that need it every other week, and there are still others that need it weekly until they get it, right? Until they get to the spot where they're comfortable and you're comfortable, and then you go to the every other week. So I like the every other week as the standard, but some people don't need that. Like I've had some vice presidents that just say, dude, we're good. We talk once in a while anyway about things, and we're good with that. So what's the purpose of the one-on-one? It's not my meeting. It's their meeting. And why do I call it the most important meeting that we can have? Is because we are there for them. And if I blow them off because a customer called or I had to go to the attorney or whatever, and I just took it off the calendar, well, what do you think the impact is for them? It is their meeting. It's about what they need. Yeah. I can get what I want anytime. And then like walking around, I walk over and say, hey, how are we doing in this project? Anytime I want. But they can't always come to me and say, I got an issue with coworker, system, whatever it is that's on their mind, right? So it's the most important meeting that I can hold because it is for them about their issue. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm going to have my list of issues available as well.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah.
So here's how we do that. Each, whatever frequency, week, every other week, I actually have a document that people can use as a starting point. And I want to know from them, how are they doing? What help do they need? What's missing? The problem. I want to hear what their problems are. I also want to hear when they've done something really great, so I can pat them on the back.
Yeah.
And I want them to tell me instead of me always telling them about things because there's a sense of pride in that. But really this document that we send to people that talks about the issues that they're having.
Yeah.
Now, if the one-on-one is 30 or 45 minutes, depending on what the time frame is, and the time frame is based on how much they need, right? We're going to go through their list. So if they exhaust their entire list and I don't get to my list, I'm fine with that. I'm good with it. It's okay.
Yeah.
There will be more opportunities for me to get back to them.
No question. I'm at a point I start off every one of those I learned all this from you. I totally shifted the way my one-on-ones are like from learning that from you. One is it is about them, and I love that. I'm in complete agreement. So they're the ones driving that meeting, and I like what you said. So about missing the meeting, right, and having that not. So what I've developed as a best practice, because things are going to happen. Throughout a week, from week to week, especially because most of mine are weekly. So the higher the frequency, the more likely there could be, you might need to make a change. So the way I communicate that is, hey, this is your meeting. I have a conflict. If you'd still like to meet this week, can we reschedule? Right? That's first and foremost. Second is there anything hot that I can help with or that I can support? I'm available right now if you want to have a quick call, if it's something that's urgent, or we can reschedule, or we can wait till next week. I give those options because for me, it's important to just simply acknowledge that your meeting is important, and I'm not changing it because I don't think it's important.
I think that's the second best way you can do that. I think there's one way that's really better.
Tell me.
I'd like to firm learn. In my calendar, and it's not going to change unless there's a death in the family or illness. But if I physically can't do that. Think about your EO group. It's counted. It's there. It doesn't change except for dire emergency all year long. You have that thing on your calendar and you don't miss it because it's that important.
So I disagree with that. And I'm going to tell you why, because that's once a month. And I don't think I think if it's once a month, I do think that's fair. I think when it's weekly, that's very challenging. The business is way too dynamic on a week to week basis. And I have multiple one-on-ones, so we're not just talking about one person.
Well, you shouldn't have more than 6 direct reports on a thing. But
I
know you do now.
Yeah, I do right now, and I don't have, so as a best practice, they drive the one-on-one. Yeah. So I'm asking, would you like a one-on-one? I will make myself available for a one-on-one. So I don't have one-on-ones with every single one of them. So that being said, I'm just saying, I think you're right in context. So I'm not arguing the point of holding a meeting.
I get stuff happening.
It just depends on the frequency, and the higher the frequency, the more challenging it becomes to hold to that level. So I'm simply saying stuff happens, and I agree that meeting is important. And so I think you do what you can to either reschedule or get on a call to make sure that you're supporting in the way that they need it, because that meeting is about them. It's not about you. And I want to say this because I think the one-on-one is as important as the huddle. And if that's not on your calendar, weekly by weekly or whatever, you're not having the right meeting. So you guys out there that are listening to this, and you've gotten this far into the podcast, right? Then huddles and one-on-ones are critical.
Yeah. So I'm going to beat the drum a little more and why. So as I'm listening to you saying, gosh, if this thing came up, the attorney needs to talk to me, whatever, right? This high level thing. Yeah. And they are. I'm not going to blow up a one-on-one unless it's a high level thing, nor are you. However, I'm going to try to adjust them rather than my key report. Now, I don't have 10 people reporting to me, so it's easy for me to say in theory they don't change when you only have to deal with, I only deal with 4 people right now. But I shouldn't be dealing with many more than 6 anyway. Yeah. Right? And some of those are weekly. Not very many, 1 or 2 weekly. 3 are every other week and one's once a month. Yeah. I can make that firm in my calendar. Yeah. You've got too many people reporting to you today to be able to do that, and I get that.
Well, I can't change. I mean, I'll give you some examples in my business. Is the big box fire is pretty hard to reschedule. Sure. The attorney is a great example. It's pretty hard to reschedule. I could go on, and there's certain situations that just, they come up, and it's very, very difficult. Nonetheless, I do agree.
As long as the employees think you're sincere about commitment.
And by the way, I do try very hard. You know how I am about owning my calendar. And so I do try every angle to put it on the other person that's asking for that time slot. And I do agree. I should try, as hard as I can to hold that time slot as much as possible.
And I'm a big fan of customers. Don't get me wrong. However, it's my people that are going to need to take care of those customers eventually, and I need to make sure that they're in good state.
Yeah, I agree. That people, so, you and I agree on that people are critical to the business.
So here's the thing that one-on-one does for you. One, it lets people know that you care, that you're interested, that they matter. And if they're even talking about their personal issues, and that's all they're talking about, I'm fine with that as well. I can handle that. I know a lot of people don't like that. I'm fine with it. I need them to be whole people and comfortable.
Absolutely. Right? I don't mind it in the least bit.
And so that's why it's really important. Now, if they know that this is important to you and you're trying to reschedule it, although when I was listening to you, one of the things I thought about is that introvert, right, that may not try to push and get their thing, may not challenge and say, I really need to talk about this. So that's a caution, right? Is to know who you're dealing with. All right.
No doubt.
So most important, my perception is the most important meetings you can have. I'm a big fan of strategic planning meetings too. I love doing them. I think they're important. The business needs them and all of that. So that's another meeting. And we do a 2-day, and sometimes 2.5 day strategic plan meeting once a month or once a year, and then quarterly updates, and then monthly check-ins, all on a strategic plan.
Yeah, we do. You know, I'm on the 12-week year. So we have every 30 days or monthly, we have half day strategic plan sessions. Yeah. Then we do quarterly, full day, and annual full 1 to 2 days.
Good.
So I think you're right. I think those are best practices for strategic planning. The other one is that weekly, and I'll take a page from Mark Kohler. I think Mark Kohler in his book, Leading with Purposes, it really has got it right as far as meeting structures. And we do follow that. So then as you do that level of strategic planning, like we're doing, it's very critical that we have a weekly meeting. I just want to share with everybody the structure of that meeting because it's awesome. And we've got it so down pat that we're finishing the meeting sometimes in 30 minutes to 40 minutes. And this was when I first came into the business, the same meeting, which is that weekly to go over all the KPIs and, all the tasks for that month and have, bring all the managers together. So I mean, we've got probably, 18 people on this call, potentially at any given time, 15 to 18 people. And imagine we're getting it done in 30, 40 minutes. When I started in the business, these sometimes ran 4 hours. Yeah, and I think a lot of people do that and they have these weekly 4 or 5 hour meetings, but it can't be, Scott, you mentioned it earlier in the conversation, which is I don't want to come to a meeting and hear somebody give a report. Yep. Because I can get that information elsewhere. It has to be. We have a dashboard, we have a report, whatever. Yeah. Like I can read the KPIs. I can read the dashboard. I can do all of that. We've got to get through it. Where does anybody need help? Where does somebody need support? Where's the hot? Like what's going on that, hey, as a group, we can provide that input, we can provide that feedback, and we can get through it. So we're running through, when we get together, we're running through all the departments and the categories, but we're doing it from a goal perspective. Okay. So in other words, it's like whatever that goal is for the month that we've identified the priorities, then we're doing it from that perspective. And and the way that we utilize Mark Kohler's platform, Lead with Purpose, the one page, is we can mark and track those goals. It's on track, or it's at risk, or we need help. And you can actually mark that. Are you color coding them too? There is a color coding to it. Good. And so that's where we focus in on the meeting. And so what used to take hours and hours is now condensed into 30 or 40 minutes because we're focusing on what we need to focus on. And we're getting to the end. And no one's sitting there reporting on stuff that anyone can already find out on that. I was at a company a couple of weeks ago and offsite, and I asked to watch their meetings, to observe their meetings. And they asked me about it afterwards. And I said, you got a lot of people just justifying their jobs. That's what they're meeting with. Here's how busy I was yesterday, was what their huddle looked like. How does that help me? Where's the value in that to me? Yeah. If I'm the boss, right, I'm going to see the output. I don't need to know how busy you were. So I want to know what you got priority and what helps you do. Simple as that, right? Okay, so we have the daily huddles. We have the probably weekly gathering of a department, right? I'll also have, which I think you called it your managers meeting, but I will have interdepartmental managers getting together and discussing and dialoguing, right? At least once a week. That's the one I was just talking about. Okay, at least once a week. And then I do have a sales meeting. So I do have a weekly sales meeting as well. And again, I'm not sitting there having anybody report on anything. We are literally, I'm giving an operational update. I'm giving lead time updates. I'm giving market updates. I'm finding out where people need help. If we have some sort of internal issue with order entry or shipping, or if we're making any changes, that's the time that I utilize for that. Even training and development. So we might be launching a brand new, merchandising kit or whatever. So that's the time that we utilize. So I don't schedule separate time, for those type of things. So Mondays I load up, just to give everybody a picture of what my calendar looks like. I load up Mondays with meetings, and then I have the daily huddle Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday mornings, I have those typical one-on-ones and the other sales huddle.
And that's no different than most of my customers. In fact, that's why I have Mondays off usually. So my customers don't have time for me.
Yeah.
They're busy working their meetings, unless I'm participating in a meeting, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty typical. So again, daily huddles, weekly departmental meeting, weekly interdepartmental managers kind of meeting, the executive huddle probably 3-4 times a week, right? That makes sense as well to me. Strategic planning meetings are longer once a year, a little shorter once a quarter, even shorter once a month. And then once a week, we're going to touch on what you call them HOTs, I think, right?
Yeah.
It's called in your organization a HOT. I think the hot topic. Hot topic is something I need help with.
Yeah.
Not, I got a problem, I don't know what to do. I got a problem, can you help me with this?
Yeah.
Right? Invite people into your thing. Those are the, and the one-on-ones.
Man, it's life changing. Like what you just, the structure that you just described for me has just been life changing. It's so simple, and I feel so connected. And man, things just move along.
So when I will disinvite people that are not participating. As well. I'm not going to. It's not as a punishment.
No, I do it. I'm not great at it either.
It's not a punishment. It is it's a one-on-one conversation with somebody and say, listen, I noticed that you're a little distracted during the meeting. You don't really have much to. So you really need to be here, and it's going to be their idea. Well, but I don't want to miss anything. Oh no, we have reports on all the meetings, and you can be on the distribution, but you really need to be here because you get 45 minutes back. Here's 50 minutes. Here's an hour back. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, don't make, here's the message.
If they hit the ego.
Don't make somebody participate in a meeting just for the sake of having everybody in a meeting. Please don't do it. As a leader, take them out. What I should do, more, I do it, but I should do it more, is excuse people when, okay, hey, today we're going to be talking about this. It really has nothing to do with you. Get your time back. Take the 30 minutes or an hour, get it back.
The other side of that coin, though, is you can invite somebody in for the first 10 minutes of a meeting, right? Because you might need their expertise for that. And then excuse them.
We absolutely do that. And I'll tell you another practice that you can get into, which I started the past couple of years. I mean, this is fairly recent, is, when you send the calendar invite out for the meeting, you can put people as optional.
Yeah.
So you can invite them, and then I put people as optional, and then that opens it up that, hey, if that's not a meeting that they need or want to participate in, they have the option to bow out.
Yeah. So I'd put some structure around that if it was mine, right? And I don't want to just put a whole bunch of people as optional, and I think companies do that to not hurt someone's feelings. You're welcome to come, but you don't have to, right? Yeah. Now, if I want to have somebody off, I'm going to have a conversation. Got this meeting coming up. I need you here. Anything, if you can't be there, let me know what water you want me to carry for you, and we can talk about that. Yeah. But I don't really like the optional. I get the concept. I get why. But I want to, if I need you at a meeting, you're at the meeting. You need to be there. Yeah. You need to be there. Otherwise, I mean, the way I look at business is, if I didn't need you, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be working here in the first place. Like you said, nobody can do it by themselves.
I like the optional function too, though, because sometimes it's just an FYI. Hey, if you don't have a meeting that conflicts, you might say, hey, I'd love to be able to sit on a meeting. You asked, right? It's like, I'd like to be able to sit in on a meeting. Great. So I'll invite you as optional, so you can sit in on a meeting if you want, if that works with your schedule. It might not work with your schedule. So point is like, So we've gotten in the habit
But
of.
I'll commit one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I know who's going to be at the meeting. So anyway, we're probably talking the same thing in just different language. So let's talk about the meeting itself. I said I like to collaborate. I like to find out who's going to participate and get people's ideas and come up and we end up making decisions.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing about decisions. We might have talked about this in a previous podcast, is up front, the leader of the meeting probably should talk about what decisions need to be made and how we're going to make them.
Yeah.
There are 4 ways of making decisions that I've been able to describe. One is going to be a command decision. My company, I'm going to make the decision. Just willing to let you know.
Yeah.
I don't need a meeting for that.
Yeah.
Right? The second one is advise. I need your advice, but I still need to make the decision because the weight of the world's on my shoulders and I'm like, it's going to fall on me. So I'm going to make the decision. The third one is I don't recommend very often. If we're going to decide where we're going to go to lunch, we can do this. We can vote. Rarely do I want to vote on a meeting, right? Majority wins. You're never going to have a good decision. Think about politics. 51 to 49. Who's happy? Only the 51%ers are happy. The 49s aren't, right? And then the final way to make a decide is to get the consensus.
Yeah.
Problem with consensus. I love consensus because what consensus means, it doesn't mean we all have to agree. It means we all have to support the decision we come up with.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get people to support a decision, even if they don't agree with it, as long as they've been heard.
Yeah.
They really feel like they've been heard, then they can support the decision even if it wasn't their first choice.
Yeah.
The problem with consensus is it takes longer. It's a lot faster to vote. It's a lot faster to make a command decision, right? Consensus takes a while. We need to talk it through. If you don't have time, I'm going to give you a quick example. If the building's on fire, let's not get in a meeting and have a consensus on who's going to go do what. I need some command decisions being made, right? So, but most other decisions, if we get consensus, we will have people committed, not just people. So I really like to get consensus when we have time. All right. So do that up front, because if you think we're going to get the consensus and I'm making just an advised command decision, you're going to be disappointed at the end.
Yep.
So if you know up front how the decision is being made, expectations are set, life is good. That's something that people forget to do a lot, is to decide how we're going to decide and let people know in advance so they're not disappointed later. Every meeting starts with this line. Every one of my meetings starts with this line. The purpose of this meeting is, and here's what we expect to get out of it. Expectation, so purpose,
novel concept,
and expectations, we stated up front. Simple as that.
Well,
now everyone knows why we're here.
And get clarity around what the meetings, those recurring meetings get super clarity. And one last thing I was going to mention too, in several of our meetings, different people lead those meetings. It isn't always the same.
That's good.
And it changes things up. It gets people out of their comfort zone. It pushes people to lead. And I love it. I love that concept. Again, I'd love to take credit for that. That's Mark Kohler.
Yep.
That's a Mark Kohler recommendation. And I appreciate you, Mark, for giving that to me.
So
hey, Scott, we've run super long on this one.
We really?
So, we can.
I have more to talk about.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
But there is so much, and I do say that, not that I don't want to keep talking about meetings, but we ran a little bit longer than what we normally do. And frankly speaking, we could keep going on meetings, because meetings are important. I think the overarching message is there's this misconception of, oh my God, here's another meeting. But when you run the meetings well, when you run them concisely, start on time, finish on time, right? And you run the meetings right, you collaborate appropriately, you get the input, you're working toward health and
people
support.
know why they're there.
People know why they're there. All these things are just super best practices. And by the way, I don't think I have anybody in our organization. I'm pretty sure when I say this, I don't think we have anybody in the organization that would come back and go, there's too many meetings. Because we have what we need when we need them, and we start on time, finish on time, and we get through it, right? For the most part. I mean, we're not perfect. We're not perfect, but we're doing a pretty dang good job of it. And for that is like, it's not, even for me personally, it's not overwhelming. And I don't love meetings. I love meetings in the way that we described it. Those are the meetings that I love.
I don't go to the other one.
Yeah, because they're like, you know, start on time, finish on time, get your date, get through your day, get all the stuff done that you need to get done, and all are equally important. That I love. You know, to me, you know, back, I can think back to so many examples of bad meetings, you know, in my past, you know, that go 3 and 4 and 5 hours. And you're just like, oh my God. And then you walk away. Instead of you walking away from that brainstorm session feeling super high and energized, I was walking away defeated, just going, those are 4 hours I can't get back.
And it's not just the length of time, but it's what's happening and how it's happening.
And what's not happening.
Right. So
nothing's getting done. It's not productive.
So we're gonna go back. We're gonna cut this one off here, but we're gonna do another session on this.
I think we need
structurally, what does the meeting look like? What are the components that need to be put in there? I've written extensively on this. If you're interested, send me an email. I'll shoot you off what we call mini ebooks. Just a white paper on it. Yeah. But leading effective meetings is a really powerful tool for someone who wants to be a leader.
No question. Yeah.
All right.
Well, that was a good one. Guys, thanks for listening. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you for joining us for the CEO Podcast. Please visit us at theceopodcast.net, where you can learn more about our co-hosts and listen to past episodes. If you would like to have a discussion and dive deeper into any topic, there is also an option to contact Scott or Vince to schedule some time with them. Thanks for listening.